Being seen is so important. I help people all day unlock their full potential, become their true potential, the best version of themselves. But when you're not being authentic to who you are, it's really hard to be seen for who you are. Welcome to the Confident Podcast. I am Lisa Tarkington, your guide to mastering confidence and leadership. As a business and leadership coach, keynote speaker, and a visionary behind Lead, I am here to equip you with the confidence, clarity, and strategy to create game-changing results so that you can step into your power as the person you're meant to be. If you press play today, it's because you're ready for something bigger. We're going to have real and raw conversations that will help you redefine your leadership and reclaim your confidence. This isn't just another podcast, it's your journey that we're on together. So buckle up and let's dive into this transformation. Your next level awaits. Hi, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Confident Podcast. I am your host, Lisa Tarkington. And as always, I am pumped to be in this seat talking to you guys about all the great things about confidence, leadership, growth for yourself, sharing my stories with all of you guys. And today, I'm very excited for today's episode because I'm going to be diving into books that I have been reading or that I plan to read. So I'll share some of those and give you guys some takeaways, why you should read them, depending on what you're looking for. And I wanted to do this episode for a long time, and I finally was like, okay, it's time to do it because I have been really big on continuous growth. Probably in the last, I would say, decade of my life, it's become really important to me. And there was also phases of my life where I didn't think it was important. I really thought that once I graduated from college, I actually graduated early because I didn't even like college, right? Like I was done with it. And I thought, okay, I'm never going to have to take another class, never have to do anything ever again. Like I'm good. And boy, did I have a wake up at 21 years old going into the workplace, because I think after a few years, I was not challenging myself. I wasn't learning new things. I was learning things on the job, but I wasn't going out in trying to get new certifications, try to learn new things. And so what I have found is that if I didn't do that, I was burning myself out. I wasn't enjoying life. I didn't feel like my purpose was there. I didn't really understand a lot of things about good leadership and to grow as a person. And I learned that I had to continuously learn things. And books were part of that. Podcasts were part of that. Certifications was part of that. So I found myself going back to school. I went back to school. I think it was 2018, 2019 is when I went back to school. I got certifications as a coach and applied positive psychology and a few other things, as well as, like I said, I've been reading, I've been listening, I would do podcasts, and I'm just having great conversations with people. And I've also had a coach. I still have a coach to this day. And what has come over time is everything I've always been able to walk away with, okay, that's what I'm going to implement. This is something to try, or it's just kind of good nuggets. The other aspect of it is all the time I get asked by my coaching clients or just people in general, hey, Lisa, do you have podcasts I can listen to about X, especially around leadership or confidence? Do you have books I can be reading? And I love giving people those things. And because, when you're reading something and it just is like, mind blowing. You're like, I have to think about this, or, oh, I'm not alone, or all these different things. It's like so powerful. And so what I wanted to do is really just kind of like dive into these. I'm going to kind of do like high level of what I've learned from each book. And also that I'm going to give you guys a list of the books that are on my list as well, because I think it's important to see well, also maybe I haven't read these yet, but I'm very excited to as well. So let's get into today's conversation. So I am going to pull up each book as I talk. Some of them, as you can see, I have lots of sticky notes on, but the first one is Traction by Gino Wickman, and it is a phenomenal book. I really like his whole system. So he is the founder of Entrepreneurial Operating System, so EOS. And it really helps you have a vision, have weekly scorecards, really creating accountability, creating clarity and rhythm for your team. And when I was reading this, one of the things that I have been always known for is my vision. Okay. I'm a very big visionary. I've always had to execute my vision. But I would say if you were to ask me what I'm best at, it's vision first, it's content first. It's really like bringing people along for the journey, relationships. Execution has always been second for me. And so this book is really great for a visionary, but it's also good for someone who loves execution or has to work with a visionary, or someone who's just like, I really want to get better systems. Okay. I know that Gino was the inventor of EOS, which is all about entrepreneurship, but I would say like a lot of the companies that I've worked with or heard from that use EOS, yes, they're entrepreneurial mindsets, but it's a really good structure for their companies. And I think one of the coolest like takeaways is that if everything is important, nothing is. And I think that was really a good perspective for me. And when I was doing a episode probably like a year ago, I shared advice that I get from leaders. And one of the things that I got advice on was like, well, what's your number one priority right now? And that was a good aha for me to be like, well, it's not 10 things. It's like, what is the number one priority right now? What do we need to be doing to make the company better, the organization better? And so again, this is really great for a visionary. This is really good for an implementer, and someone that's, looking to lead in their business better. Even if you're not the CEO, I would say it's really good for structure, and it's really good to just like get some thoughts on paper. I use this a lot, and I recommend this a lot with my coaching clients. So book number 1 is Traction. Next book. Now, this one I read a year ago, and I will tell you, I probably recommend this book more than any other book right now. Dan Martell is phenomenal. I am a huge, huge fan of him. If you've never seen him before, I would definitely recommend looking him up. I follow all of his TikToks. I follow all of his videos, even on Instagram, and it's because he's very smart, he's very powerful, and he has a great perspective. The other thing I really like about him is, like what I said, he's really smart when it comes to business, but he's very empathetic around people as well. And so that's been really awesome. I've also sent this book to multiple leaders. It's been really cool to hear leaders that have read this, have taken things away, and how they can buy back their time. How can they show up differently? How do they structure their teams? How do they delegate? How do they shift things? And that was really cool for me, to be honest, of like how I even want to manage my time and how other people should manage their time. So Dan shows how you should delegate, how you should automate, design your business around your zone of genius, not just your to-do list. It's also really cool because it's not just for entrepreneurs. And I know that I am an entrepreneur, but I think it's really cool to just think about like, well, how do I handle my time? Where do I focus my stuff? I think it's really good for people that want to build programs, lead teams, even raise a family. I think it was really cool because it helped me realize that time freedom isn't earned later, but it's about right now. How am I being intentional? And I think that it was just so good. I literally could just like read it again right now because I think what he taught me a lot was just the structure and what I need to change. And I think a lot of my coaching clients also really liked it because of the simplicity, but also kind of like mind-blowing, just like ideas of how to handle things. So again, buy back your time. If you don't follow him on socials, I highly recommend that as well. He has some really great things. All right, book number 3. This one is Be Seen. And I actually just started this one this year. This is a newer book. I got to meet Jen, the author, via a Zoom meeting that I was invited to, and she was phenomenal. And I think what I really learned from this one is, first off, her story is phenomenal. She really shares a lot of the not so great stuff that a lot of us go through, and how she wasn't an entrepreneur at the time, but like how she really built herself, how even the moments where things didn't go well, what did she do to change that? And I think this one really hit me because being seen is so important. I help people all day unlock their full potential, become their true potential, the best version of themselves. But when you're not being authentic to who you are, it's really hard to be seen for who you are. And this has like come up a lot in my life, I think, in the last couple of years as I've gone through a lot of changes and transitions and movement of who am I? What do I want to be? Like, where is my voice? And I think Jen did a great job of helping you figure out, where do you want to be seen? What does that look like? She has a lot of great stories that a lot of you would probably resonate with. I did, as well as a lot of strategies that can help you. And I think one of the things that like people always think about is like, well, how do I be seen more online? But I think one of the things that I took away was like, how do I just be seen for who I am, being my authentic self? Yes, do I want to be seen more online to grow XYZ? Sure. But that's not everybody's goals. Sometimes the goal is that I just want to be my authentic self and be seen by people and loved for those things. And I think she did a really great job of how that looks for her. Again, she talks about being courageous, creative, connecting, and being visible. And so again, this is a really good one because it's about, I'm going to read it right here. Find your voice, build your brand, live your dream. And it doesn't mean that you have to have this like personal brand that like is out there for everybody, but it's about what do I want to be known for? What do I want to be recognized for? So this is the next book. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, you know that I love AG1. I start my mornings off with it every day. But one of the cool things that I've added into my routine is adding AGZ to the end of my day. And it's been a game changer. It's a nightly drink that helps me wind down and rest without any melatonin. I love mixing it with warm water. It's calming. And sometimes I do it when I'm reading a book at night or just chilling, hanging with my husband. It's packed with things like magnesium, magnesium, and saffron ingredients backed by research to help your body relax and support real quality sleep. And the best part is I wake up rested and not groggy, which is so key for me, especially with my busy days. So again, if you are ready to take the next step to help you with stress and focus more and really get some good rest, as you guys know that's really important to me too when it comes to my self-care, go to drinkag1.com/theconfident to get a free frother with your first purchase of AGZ. Again, that's drinkag1.com/theconfident. I would love for all of you to check it out. It has been a huge piece of my life. As you know, AG1 in the morning is important to me, but now I get to end my nights with it as well. Number 4, The 5 Types of Wealth. Whew, I loved this book. It's not all about money. So the 5 types of wealth are time, social, mental, physical, and financial. So it talks about all 5 of these. And this was given to me this year on my birthday from a dear friend of mine. And what I think was the first thing that came out for me was in the opening, he talks about he lived in a different state than his parents. And someone was asking him like, oh, when are you going to see your parents again? And he was like, oh, I see them like, once a year, they're getting a little bit older. And don't quote me on this, but I think the person said to him, oh, so you'll see your parents 20 more times before they pass away. And that really stuck with me because we think of wealth a lot as money. I do. I will share that. But I think it's also about time and where we spend our time and how all of those things come to play. And I think that really resonated with me because there are many times where I've given up things because of other obligations. And I think what I've learned is there is wealth in how I spend my time. There is in my physical, my emotional, my social, my mental, and my financial piece. I think the other thing is this can be really good for someone who isn't really good with their time, maybe thinks that money is the only thing. I think it's also really good for people that have a scarcity mindset. So I've had a scarcity mindset with money for my whole life, basically, I would say. I've always worked multiple jobs. I've always had to pay my bills in multiple ways. And I always thought that like if I had more money, that would mean that I'd be more wealthy. But I've always had this scarcity mindset that's also held me back. So I would say like this has really helped me to put together what I want for my future. He also has some really good tools in here as well. So I highly recommend this book, The Transformative Guide to Design Your Dream Life. And so I always say on here, I want people to have their dream life. I want people to reach their full potential. And this is a great book to help you do that. All right, next, the 4 disciplines of execution. And I think for me, this was really good because I read this about 3 years ago when I was just one of those people that had like 17 priorities at one time. And one of my friends was reading it and I was asking him about it. And as I was reading, I was sharing a little bit on social and my aunt called me. She works for a corporation. She's like, we read this and it changed our whole like thought process of how we do things. So it's a really, really good one for anybody that's leading teams and people that love goals like me, but they like to track them. They like data and all of those things because it really just helps you break down how to move from strategy to results, and how to have like the 4 disciplines, right? So focusing on the wildly important goal. That's a really big one that comes out of it. How do you lead with measurements? How do you have a compelling scoreboard? And how do you create accountability? And what I think I loved about this is it was very practical. It was not a theory, it was a process. And for me, as someone who likes to know if I go from A to Z, this is how we're going to be successful. Like these are the different types of things. I think this was really good for me. I laughed when I read this because I think I realized I have too many wildly important goals going on at the time. And I think that it didn't happen overnight that I changed that and really level setted with myself. But it's a really good read for leadership teams or people in general. And this is one that, again, like I said, has been recommended to me. And it was by people that in companies were reading this together. So it's a really good one to figure out what are the important goals of your team and how are we going to focus on those? And how do we put the noise in maybe a parking lot or other things as we move forward? So great book. The next one is The Genius Zone. And if you know anything about following me on podcasts, you know I love teaching the zone of genius. And Gay Hendricks was actually the founder of it. And so what I think I loved about this book was it's kind of like the starter for it, right? It's the starter of finding your genius zone, what that looks like. And so, I think that this was really cool because it was the sequel to his other book, The Big Leap. But it goes deeper into your zone of genius. It's kind of like that sweet spot to find where are you energized and where do you want to focus your time? And I think over the years, following him, reading about him, I've done a lot on the podcast about this, and I've also built a whole methodology that aligns to some of his thought processes. It's been really cool to see how these things can bring us alive and how when we start to focus on the positive stuff in our lives and how we think, it's like a game changer. So again, this really helped me start the process. And I would say since then, it's had a lot of ahas for me to really help me focus on my zone of genius. And when I'm out of aligned, how that feels as well. All right, we got 2 more books that I would recommend. This next one is Jesus CEO. And this one is really special to me because this was, I think it was 2019, 2020. I could be a little bit wrong on that. When I wrote a book about my journeys in Haiti, and I gave it to a leader who I just admired so much. He built a amazing, impactful company, and I really wanted him to have my book because he was a big reader. And so one of my friends that works for him gave him the book, and he gave me this book. And he wrote in here, which I just loved so much. And it was funny because it was passed down from someone else to him, and now he passed it down to me. And what I loved about this is, so I am faith-based, is that first off, it was from a dear friend who thought this was important for me to read, but it really helped me with my leadership at the time. Versus doing versus being. It helped me ask myself, do I lead from presence or do I only lead from hustle? Still probably working on that a little bit. How I guard my energy, how I spend my time, how I work on even what other people perceive of me, and focusing really on my leadership. I think that this was a really good one because I really love everything about leadership. I love learning about it. I think I'm always still learning how to be a better leader and the things that I need to do. And so it's really cool because it helps you see love through leadership. It helps you see people beyond their roles, forgive easily, speak the truth lovingly, and then release people to rise. So delegate, one of those types of things. And for those that are listening, I think you have to ask yourself is where do you need to lean in a little bit? Where do you need to make different decisions? And I think what I loved about this is it's just such a good perspective for visionary leadership. I also think it was really cool because it just helps you have a different perspective of what leadership could look like, especially from a faith-based perspective. So that's another book. And then the last book that I have read that I really would recommend is The Confidence Code. And I read this one years ago. But it's a classic, and it's because confidence, obviously, the podcast, the Confident Podcast. But I think it's really cool to hear the research behind confidence, why it's important, and that it's a skill, not just a trait. I think a lot of people get self-esteem and confidence confused. And I think this book does a really good job of helping people understand confidence, the confidence code, understanding people. And again, it's the science and art of self-assurance. It is for women, but I would highly recommend men reading it too, because I think it's really good to just understand confidence and understand it, because I truly believe that confidence is one of the number one indicators of growth for people. When they can see their skills, they can see their worth. I was just teaching the other day and watching people grow in their confidence, and the ahas going off was so phenomenal. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different books that I would highly recommend you reading. And I think that for me, I'm a big reader, right? Like I love podcasts and I can give all the recommendations for podcasts, but there's something for me about a book sitting outside or before bed that really helps me think differently and really helps me grow as a person. And so those are the books that I would recommend reading. They are ones that I have learned. I think that you just have to filter on what are your goals and what are the books that are going to help you have new perspective, learn something. But I think it's also important to know, like, if you're going to have a opportunity to read a book, read it, do something about it. The action after is just as important. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys a few different books that like I am some I've started to read and I haven't finished, and then also what I have on my docket. So here we go. So I still have a lot more on here, but the first one is the Let Them Theory. I am only a little bit into it, but I am very excited to read this book. So highly recommend it, especially if you are in a phase of your life where you're allowing everybody else to kind of like control your thoughts, perspective and people's opinions are kind of getting in your way, and you just have to kind of come back to who you are. So highly recommend that. The next one is Jump, Dare to Do What Scares You in Business and Life. I love Kim. I follow her on all socials. I'm kind of like a big like fan behind the scenes. She is so phenomenal when she speaks. She just has like a way to articulate so many powerful things. And I think what I'm excited for is because a lot of us in our careers, in our movement, we're scared to make jumps. We're scared to make the leaps. And I do a whole keynote about like taking the leap and leadership. And so I'm very excited to learn from her about how she did it and what that looked like for her life. So that's another book I plan to read. Smart Growth, How to Grow Your People to Grow Your Company. This was actually recommended by a friend in HR for another corporation. I have not started it yet, but we were on a call one day just catching up, and she pulled it right out and she was like, Lisa, you need to read this. It is going to be phenomenal for you to just grow with your leadership and to help other people. She's like, it's been so great for me, and I have a lot of takeaways. So I have not started it yet, but highly recommend checking it out if this is something that you're trying to grow in. The next one, Messy Joy. So Robin was one of the first people on our podcast about 3 years ago when we restarted the seasons. And she's so phenomenal. I adore her and I love her. And I think choosing joy, especially messy joy, how joy can begin before your difficulties end, is really important. She's such a joy person. Like, I feel like she's the person that if you're around her, like, she brings joy. And so I'm excited to read from her perspective on like how joy is a game changer for people. The next one is The Energy Bus. And this was given to me by another company. One of my friends who works for a business, I was meeting with her one day and she's like, I got a book for you. And she's already, I would call her the Energy Bus. She's definitely that type of person. But I think what like this does is like the 10 rules to fuel your life, work, and team with positive energy. And let's be honest here, a lot of us could use the positive energy right now. So if you're already positive or you're in a negative space, like definitely highly recommend this, and I'll tell you how it is. The next one is this Fail Forward Mentality by Jacob Brown. So Jacob has been on our podcast before. He is a sought after keynote speaker, and he is just such a phenomenal human. And one of his mentalities is really fail forward. And so if you are nervous to fail, if you're nervous to take the leaps or anything like that, I highly recommend picking this book up. I'm excited to read it because I even think I'm learning how to fail forward as I grow. And then we have Judy Holler from Holler at Your Dreams. That's her book. She just wrote this. It just came out. I think I pre-ordered it before it even came out. And what I love about Judy is she talks a lot about being your authentic self. She also talks about when she lost herself. And I think that that's very important for people to realize is that sometimes we are going to veer off from our purpose. We're going to veer off from things. We're not going to stay authentic to who we are. And how do we get back on the train? I have started this one. I have already learned some key takeaways. And I think too, she has some poetry in here as well, which is really powerful. And it's a different way to read a book. And then last but not least is All the Girls I Was Before by Lauren Boss. And Lauren and I used to work together at a corporation. We've reconnected over the years. She was one of those people that I just admired so much. And I think I only have like 2 chapters left on her book. It's already been phenomenal. I think one of the things that really resonated with me is all of the transitions in her life. Again, all the girls she was before who she is today, and how it resonated with me and how I'm like, okay, I'm not alone in my journey. I'm not thinking bad about things. It is okay to shift. And then she also shares her progress. She also is very vulnerable in this book. And I think that that's very powerful because when I can read someone's story and understand more about the person, even if I don't know them, it's pretty powerful, but it's really cool when you know them. But I would recommend this for anybody who is trying to grow in their career, motherhood, or becoming who you're meant to be. I'm very proud of her for this book, and it has been a joy reading it. I actually, one night, I couldn't even put it down. I think I went to bed like an hour and a half late because it was so good and so many takeaways. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other books. So that is 16 books for you guys. 16 books to really help you grow. And so, and each one of them reminds me of leadership, continuous learning. And it's not about like, I have to read these because I'm lacking at something. No, I want you to evolve. I want you to grow. I want you to have takeaways. I don't want you to get into ruts. And if you do, I want you to pull yourself out. So again, it's not just about reading the book, but it's about applying it, reflecting and sharing as well. So my challenge for all of you listening is to pick one of them. Or pick a podcast or pick an idea, and I want you to go deeper. I want you to journal about it. I want you to talk about it. And I also want you to take something away and be able to explain it to someone else because that's when it's powerful and it clicks. So again, the best leaders are lifelong leaders, or learners, The best leaders are lifelong learners. So when you stop learning, you stop leading to your full potential. And I want you all to reach your full potential. So my takeaway for all of you today is I hope that one of these books that you pick up, that you read, I hope that you also know that there are so many phenomenal leaders out there. And when you can pull different things to grow yourself in your confidence, in your leadership, and be successful with your life, it is a game changer. And it's so important that we grow as humans. So as I say at every podcast to end it, continue to spread love and kindness to everybody that you meet, and have a great day. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Confident Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, head over to leadconfidently.org for today's show notes along with discounts to our services. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and follow us on Instagram and YouTube at The Confident Podcast. Your feedback means the world to me, and it helps more people discover the show. And hey, if you're feeling inspired to dive deeper, let's connect. You can find me on Instagram at Lisa Tarkington Official. Drop me a message and let's explore how I can support your journey to confidence and leadership. Remember, you have the power to choose confidence every single day. Keep showing up, keep striving, and keep believing in your potential. I'm cheering you on, and I'll see you next time.